Welcome back here. Maybe we are waiting for some other student coming back here so I can show you some U-tip again. Now this U-tip indeed is about the chemical, how reactive the chemicals will be. For example, this one. This is called a diethyl zinc. It's highly flammable. Once they mix it with, they meet air, they start to burn. Okay, they start to burn. Maybe you can have a look at this again. So you can see that once the chemical splash, fire occur. It ignites in a second. No video. How come? You only hear the sound but no video. Is it okay? So, I hope you enjoy this video. No video. Ooh. Anything wrong? Something wrong? It's all gone. It's all gone. It's clean. No icons there. Okay. We are in trouble. We're in deep trouble. Yep. Any? Which one?
This is the...
I see. Go back to this one.
Yeah.
I see.
If you want to go back to your presentation, then just start over.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. It's called diethyl zinc. Okay. It self-ignites in air in a seconds once they meet air. Okay, these kinds of the organometallic compounds are really nasty. It's really bad. And then I would like to show you another movie about T-butyl lithium. It's cool. Okay, this guy makes nitric acid with sugar, only sugar, in an ice bath. Okay, you see a toxic. Oh, NO2. It's horrible, right? So maybe you can find a lot of the crazy things in YouTube. If you are really interested in these kinds of chemical reaction, I encourage you to go check YouTube, and then you may enjoy a lot of things. But anyway, it might happen in the laboratory. The last things I would like to show you indeed is about the explosion of the magnetic resonance imaging system. It's a brand new one. It's really expensive, and it explodes during the transportation. It's from the news.
transfer at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Technicians were to replace a used MRI or magnetic resonance imaging unit with a new one. The workers stood nearby. The old machine blew up. Fortunately, no one was injured in the blast, but it did surprise everybody. Our own May Bounds caught it on tape. From our 47th Andrew Christopoulos reports.
The explosion captured exclusively by November 47 News left the parking lot of PRNC and the surrounding area.
Okay, these fireworks cost about maybe 10,000 millions or so much money. Now, because it bombed the MRI device during moving, because of the quenching problem. So another accident I would like to show you indeed is this one, where they this one. Maybe you don't understand the Chinese, don't worry. I would like you to look at the You see, the truck. Do you want to see it once more? Okay, pay attention. It's only the liquid oxygen cylinder. I think it's liquid oxygen. Okay, low temperature one, but the valve, the pressure valve, releasing valve goes wrong, and then it bombed the trucks directly. So I think now you are warming up, and then we can go back to the transparency, the PowerPoint. So is your laboratory safe? Is your laboratory safe? Maybe you think that you are doing green chemistry. You are doing some really safe things. But maybe you can say it's kinds of cheating, because when you walk into the laboratory, you can still discover a lot of the very dangerous things in your laboratory. So these guys may be interested in green chemistry, but actually the environment he's in is not safe at all. Okay. You can see all these kinds of the equipment there, okay, and also flammable solvent, smoking stuff. So what's the meaning of risk? It's a kind of the science. When we talk about risk, there are many factors that govern the risk. So maybe we can simplify everything into a formula. The formula at least contains two factors. One is the so-called severity of the accidents or the incident. On the other hand, you have to count the probability. Sometimes people hate to receive safety training because you have never experienced about the incidents or the accidents, because the probabilities are low. Okay, the probabilities are low, but it doesn't mean that it won't happen. Some of the accident will be really horrible because once it happens, it may kill you. So at least when we talk about risk, we have to understand that the factors behind risk, there are two factors at least. So how can we control these two factors? For example, I always encourage students to pay attention to the so-called reaction scale, or maybe the power you are working with. Okay. One of the ways indeed to reduce the risk indeed is to reduce the reaction scale. Well, because we reduce the reaction scale will help you to reduce the severity in each accident or incident. So maybe you may still get hurt from the incident or accident. Maybe your fingers will have really slightly cut. But at least it won't give you a big damage. So in order to understand the scientific phenomenon, you don't have to make a large scale. And then if you can make a small scale, then please reduce the reaction scale. It is the job number one you have to understand. So don't try to convert your laboratory to be a factory. Okay? If your laboratory can only will allow you to handle only 1 gram of the materials. Don't try to scale it up to 10 grams because it will be really dangerous. The second thing indeed is to follow the SOP, the guidelines, or the suggestions from other professional people. Why? Because it may help you to reduce the probability of the accidents. Sometimes you make a change of the SOP may cause some accidents, okay? So SOP will help you to reduce the probability factor. Maybe you may not understand fully about this meaning, okay? For example, I would like to show you one thing. How to assess your risk and severity. For example, in one experiment, if you want to do the coupling, okay, aromatic coupling reactions, you are going to make the biphenyl compound. Sometimes you can use T-butyl lithium and a catalyst, okay. First of all, to make the aryl lithium compound, and then by using the catalyst, you can make a couple to make the dimer of the benzene ring. In some situations, you may be able to use the weaker base, K2CO3, instead of T-butyl lithium. So the weak base will lead you to low risk, and then the strong base and then the pyrophoric compounds, organometallics, will lead you to a high severity. And of course, if in case your laboratory, your experiment force you to use this compound, then on the other dimensions, it's talk about the personal protection. If you have the complete personal protections, you may still be safe, okay? However, if you want to be a hero and refuse to wear any kinds of the personal protection, and then you put you at the high risk end, and then you may really get hurt once accident occur. Okay. So now, whether you want to change, you want to switch the accident to become a disaster, or vice versa. Originally, it should be a disaster, and then you can convert it back to the accidents. It all depends on your attitude, attitudes. So first of all, you have to understand the probable factors behind the accidents, okay? Now, for example, you are not a Superman. You are not a Superman. The weakness of the human being, in particular the reliability, mostly is the major factor for the accidents. Okay, and also you have some kinds of the factor that can help you to control the accidents, not allow it to become a disaster. For example, emergency preparedness is very important because once you expect that you can foresee the potential dangers. You make all kinds of the actions, the planning. Okay, once the accident occurred, and then you can suppress the accidents, not allow it to evolve to become a disaster. Okay, so this is a very important thing you have to understand, these two concepts. So safety educations, what do you want to tell? Okay, in America, the ACS now divided them into many different kinds of levels, but they still follow this concept developed by Professor Hill and Finster in their textbook. The textbook indeed is called the Laboratory Safety for Chemistry Students. They raise a concept so-called the RAM concept. First of all, we have to let you understand, recognize the hazards. Okay, so please read all kinds of the materials, the information about the chemicals or the experiment you are going to do. And then you have to make the assessment. You assess the risk of the hazards, and you have to learn how to handle it and how dangerous it will be. And then you have to propose how to minimize the risk. And then finally, you have to do all kinds of the preparation. But still, this kind of level is only for undergraduate laboratory. Maybe now you think that you are really a graduate student. Now, what should we do? What should we do? We have already learned this in the undergraduate class. So what next indeed is that in the undergraduate class, there are lots of things you have to learn. But most of the things are input by your professor. And then you have to follow. You're just a follower. Okay? You may not understand why I have to put the goggles on my face. It looks silly, okay? I don't like goggles because it looks ugly. But why I have to put the goggles on my face? You may argue with your professor. But when you are undergraduate student, your professor will say, no deal, you have to put it on. Okay? You have to put it on. Okay? Don't quarrel with me. and then you will put it on. But however, in the graduate, postgraduate training, you are not only to be a follower, you have to understand all the reasons why and also the designs of a goggle. So in this class, I will also let you understand how they design a goggle and what's the purpose of this kinds of the design. And you may have to fully understand why they do that intentionally. Okay. The next one indeed is they add one item called what-if analysis. You're supposed to have the ability to make the assumption. Okay, you have to be able to assume some things occur when you make two things together, and then you have to do the what-if analysis. For example, you may ask, what would happen if I mix nitric acid and acetone together? Okay, it may be really a funny reaction. I would like to use acetone and nitric acid. So you start to do the what-if analysis. If you are unable to figure out the answers, please ask the safety officer, and then he will tell you one thing indeed is, if you mix acetone and nitric acid together, even 500 milliliter is enough to bomb your laboratory. Okay, that's the education I received at Cornell. The safety officers give us a training and then said, in the laboratory, acetone is the most dangerous things, in particular in the presence of nitric acid. Okay, don't look down on this, how powerful it will be. 500 milliliter is good enough to bomb your laboratory. Okay, because they are really strong nitrating agent. They make the nitro compound, and then the nitro compound will decompose, and it indeed is a bomb. Remember that sometimes the students are really negligent, and also maybe some so ignorant. When I was a tutor in United States, okay, we supposed to in charge of the undergraduate laboratory, and then some student has to use phenol as a reagent, and the other group has to use the nitric acid, sulfuric acid, something like that. So we have two different kinds of the so-called waste bottle. One is the acid bottle, the other is for organic phenol or something like that, organic compounds. And then we have one tutor stand by next by the hood, watching the student and remind them, don't put the wrong things in the wrong bottle, okay? Look at that carefully. And then the student gives us answer, don't worry, I know that, I know what I'm doing, don't worry. And then put the chemicals into the waste can and walk away. Less than 15 seconds, boom, okay? The hood was destroyed. Why? Because they put something like phenol, toluene, something like that into the bottle. It just simply do the nitration reactions. And then the picric acid, the final compound may be picric acid, indeed is explosive, okay? Explosive. So these kinds of may happen. So you are supposed to be able to do the what-if analysis. Nowadays, even for a CEO in a company, they really emphasize on the what-if analysis, because you know why? Because if your designs cause one accident, it is a big money. It's a big money for the company. Okay, the company may simply broke because you make a mistake. Okay, you bomb the factory. It may cause a really serious consequence. So what-if analysis nowadays is a really important education directions for ACS to promote. Now, of course, we are not talking about teaching you how to do the what-if analysis here, but I just let you know, you're supposed to know how to do what-if analysis when you design your experiment. And then one guideline indeed is less is better. Okay, less is better. Don't try to scale up anything. It may be really dangerous. Okay, if you want to scale up something else to make your laboratory become a factory, you have to take other lessons about how to build a factory. Okay. So what's the mean of less better? I think many people enjoy campfire. Okay, you enjoy campfire, it's nice, but one day when you wake up, okay, suddenly there's a forest fire in front of you, but not a campfire. The only difference indeed is the scale, but it's a nightmare for you. right? It's a nightmare for you. So please enjoy your campfire and don't set up the forest fire. Now, sometimes you may think that you are so safe, or because I don't touch chemicals, I'm a biologist. Indeed, the same things. When you need to get in touch with the infectious material, it always let yourself exposed to dangerous. Well, because according to the statistics, near 400 accidents with dangerous pathogens, and also the biotoxins reported in United States over 7 years. You divided that by it. Or for almost every month, there are two accidents. Okay, there are 2 accidents. So it's really dangerous. So for example, from time to time, you can see that a woman infected by Zika in Pittsburgh lab accident, in a lab accident, okay, Zika get into the body of a woman. And also it is a really big tragedy for Miss Griffin. She was a 20-year-old lady. In this, she is not a graduate student. She just an assistant. She was an assistant in the laboratory. Her job indeed is to clean up the cage of the monkey. The cage of the monkey. No monkey there, just the cage. The job of her indeed is to clean up the cage. However, somehow the virus, the herpes B virus, this is called the herpes B virus, okay, from the monkey's mouth, okay. They get into her eyes, and then she got infected by this virus, and then she walked to the clinics to ask for help. Unfortunately, the doctor discovered that they cannot do anything because the monkey virus into a human body, we don't have any antibody to deal with this kinds of the virus. Think about that, the distance between her eyes and her brain is only 2 inches away, 2 inches only. And the virus can access to her brain so easily, so she died after a few days. Okay, she dies after a few days. So nowadays, if you type her name onto the Google search, you can still find that there's a foundation, at the foundation, with her names on, and then to memorize and try to improve the working environment for biologists, okay, for biologists. So it's a tragedy, but now people still remember this tragedy. Another story is about a really famous story about the Texas tank accidents. That indeed they are going to make some kinds of the potentially explosive materials. This one is really dangerous because you see hydrazine and also perchlorate. They would like to make these kinds of the compacts. The limit, the professor has set the limit in the laboratory, no more than 100 milligram limit. But the student decided to scale it up to 10 grams. And then turns out it bombs the laboratory, okay? No mercy, no mercy. So that's the reason why I say less is better, because please look at the threshold or the ceiling of not the threshold, but the ceiling of the limit. And then don't go over the limit because it will become a disaster. It is another story. This guy decided to use 200 grams of the sodium azide. It's a highly potentially explosive, in particular in the presence of acid, because the HN3 is known to be explosive. These guys are very lucky because he set up the experiment in the evening maybe. And then after stirring overnight, in the morning, he went back to the laboratory and checked and looked at the framework, looks good. And then he pulled the shells down, and then walked out the laboratory. Once he walked out the laboratory, explosion occurred. He's lucky because he walked away. But anyway, you see, that's the consequence of the hood, okay? Anything is just falling down. So is a laboratory safe? Or anytime you have to make sure that all the chemicals or machines or equipments will not harm you, okay? Will not harm you. So you need to aware of the so-called the potential hazards. That means you don't see it may not occur every minute, but there's potential of hurting you. So you have to pay attention to the so-called the potential hazards and try to minimize the risk. Okay, that's your job. In the laboratory, I would like to remind you one thing in this. Every time when you are handling the explosive, we remember it's dangerous. Anytime when you need to contact with chemicals, you have to be very careful and well equipped, okay, once you contact with chemicals. That when you need to keep something else on the shelves, make sure that they won't falling down, okay, they won't fall down. Okay, I guarantee you that when I walk into the laboratory in this building, I discovered that many things on top of the shelves is really dangerous. The falling objects may kill you, okay, directly, and also may cause fire accidents. We have one serious accident in our university because of the falling cabinet. The whole cabinet just falling down and then leading to a fire accident, destroy one laboratory. I have the photo here. If you like, you can look at the photo, okay, like that. Okay, including the injuries by equipment. But interesting thing indeed is the statistic. Interesting thing is the statistic. When you look at the statistic, sometimes you can see the pyramid. About 600 near miss cases, there will be about 30 times of property damage, and then 10 times of a minor injury, and then one serious hurt. You may wonder why they are correlated, because through the statistic over the half a century, we always see these kinds of the pyramid. Then that means they are correlated somewhere else. But maybe you don't know why they are correlated. In this class, I will show you one story, and then you understand why they are correlated, and what is our strategy to avoid the serious accident. So maybe you will think that, Professor, you keep talking about the safety. Maybe we can reduce the number of the near miss. But what's the relationship between here and here? But the statistics tell you that if I can eliminate the number of near miss, I can also eliminate the number of the serious hurt. You have to believe me, okay? You have to believe me. Now, if you don't believe me, you will see these kinds of the cases. This is the history. A girl lost her eyes because at that time she needed to work on the high temperature molten salt, and the molten salt splashed over her face and then damaged her eyes. Okay, it's a really serious accident. Okay. Oh, and then some student, okay, has his fingers cut off in an accident. Is the second case. And then some kinds of the accidents are more lucky because it's so-called a near miss, a compressor get burned here. And then we have another accident in our department also recently, about 1 month ago, 2 months ago, in August. The compressor out of control and then overheat, and then turns out cause a fire accident. Potentially this is very dangerous because there are highly active xylene tanks around, but luckily the fire accident is just limited in a small area, okay, not spreading over the other area. So we are lucky, okay, at that time. For example, the electrical shock, from time to time it happens. And here's from the newspaper, a fire accident in one university. You can see the fire, how strong the fire will be, and then it destroyed the whole laboratory. So when you work in the laboratory, remember one thing, in this we are going to train a dinosaur as a pet, okay? We play with a dinosaur. The only thing we can do indeed is to understand how to control the dinosaur. Otherwise, it will be out of control, okay? It will be really dangerous. So, first of all, I would like to convince you to change your mind, okay? Make you change your mind. Indeed, it's your attitude. You are not exceptional. Most of the people don't believe lab safety. Even they understand lab safety, they still ignore lab safety. Here is the survey in America. 86% of the people think that they work in a safe place, okay, in the laboratory. And then most of the senior researchers felt that the appropriate safety, you don't have to improve anything. It's okay in the laboratory. And some of them work alone at least once a week. Sometimes they didn't even wear a lab coat, okay? And I will let you know the consequences. And they don't receive any trainings. They don't look at the SDS, the safety data sheets. They don't understand the chemicals at all before they handle it. Or maybe they, even though they are aware that at least one major injury occurring in their laboratory, but they still ignore all kinds of the safety rules. So you know, even I try to promote all kinds of the safety educations in my university, but I go to the laboratory and check the student. The highest number of the student then don't have the goggles on. Indeed, it's 99%. Okay, you go to some department, I cannot say which department, but some department when you walk in, no goggle, no lab guy, no safety. Even they have already received so-called safety education. So if you don't change your attitude, okay, you don't trust this one, and then maybe you will be the unlucky one day. So you see the number keep happening, okay, in United States and also in Taiwan. But I like to use the United States examples, okay, because I dare not to use the examples here. I will be killed by other university. But anyway, you see it is a global culture, okay, in the lab accident. It's so-called the endless accidents in the laboratory. But I would like to change the culture, change your mind. And of course, disaster starting from the ignorance and overlooking the disciplines. So you don't believe all kinds of the disciplines. And then the accident, the disaster may follow you. Here's one tragedy, again, on Miss Senji. She was a 23 years old lady working in United States, UCLA, okay, University of California, Los Angeles campus. At that time, she need to prepare the one reagent called vinyl lithium within the circle. The reagent she need to use indeed is T-butyl lithium. And I showed you the YouTube before. That guy who want to quench the T-butyl lithium. The lithium is old. That one is old and useless, almost unreactive butyl lithium. And then he put the T-butyl lithium on ice, it still burns. Think about that, this young lady needs to use the T-butyl lithium to make the vinyl lithium. And then she was trained, she had received the training before on small scale. But one night, she decided to make this reaction in a larger scale. And then fire ignited her gloves and her sweater. And then she was burned about over 40% of her body. She died a few days later. Okay? It's only news. So it's a news or press. So you just know that she died, okay, a few days later. So what's new? Okay. But of course, you can look at the picture. The consequence of the laboratory completely destroyed. But when you look at the details of the incidents, she decided to work almost alone, I can say almost alone, on December 29th. December 29th is a long vacation in United States. It is a Christmas time and New Year's. Almost no people will stay in the laboratory, but she worked too hard. She decided to went back and work on December 29th. It's almost empty. I mean empty is not just in their laboratory, but in the whole building or in the whole university, it's almost empty. So at that time, she decided to work on that day. And then, although she has received some training from the PI, but it's not enough to handle the large scale. But she decided to scale that up for 3 times of the materials. Using 160 milliliter of the T-butyl lithium is really a huge number. But unfortunately, she has only a 60 milliliter syringe. The syringe, the size of the syringe doesn't match with the scale at all, which means that she had to use the same syringe to pull up the reagent for 3 to 4 times. If you have experience on using the T-butyl lithium, you know that once you pull that up, sometimes they may get stuck, the syringe may get stuck easily. Okay, easily. So under this situation, she still decided to use this kinds of the apparatus. She didn't have lab coats on, it's definitely, but nobody knows whether she has the safety glasses or goggles, but definitely no lab coats on. And then when she decided to pull up the reagents, the syringe puncture, the syringe puncture popped out. Okay, the whole things pop out, and then start to ignite and burn. Unfortunately, there is an open flask of vaccine in the hood, and Sanji knocked it over. It is the second disaster. Okay, second disaster. And then the fire the spread so fast and become out of control. The third thing indeed is although she's supposed to know there is a shower adjacent, 6 feet, indeed is 2 meters away from her. But anyway, for some reason she didn't use the shower, and then just simply running out of the laboratory. Now, at that time, 2 postdocs in the other room discovered this incident, and then helped her to smoke the flame and call 911 for rescue. But unfortunately, it's too late. Okay, 40% of her body were damaged, and then she died in the hospital a few days later. So when you look at the details and what's happened here, some companies, some organizations try hard to analyze the factors or the common causes for the workplace of accidents, workplace accidents in United States, and they concluded that there are 7 factors, common factors or common causes for the accident. One is taking shortcuts. That means you don't follow the standard routes to do that. Indeed, generating everything's 3 times more materials at once, indeed is the shortcut. She decided to do that. Okay, it's a shortcut. But only the shortcut may not be the critical factors for causing the serious accident. She's overconfident and then decided to carry out the experiment during the UCLA holiday shutdown. In that situation, even she has any questions or problems, nobody can give her the answer. For example, if she need a larger syringe, if somebody around, as long as she asks for a larger syringe, somebody may deliver a larger syringe to her. But anyway, she worked alone at that time. And poor or lack of housekeeping is the third factor. Indeed, there should not be an open flask of vaccines in the hood, but it happens. And then at that time, during the accident, she's supposed to know the shower, emergency shower, but she did not use the emergency shower. She's supposed to follow the guideline to have the lab coat on. Think about it, the function of the lab coat, okay? But anyway, she didn't have the lab coat. And turns out she used a wrong setup, the syringe. Okay, it's the small syringe to pull out the huge amount of the T-butyl-lithium. So you can see there are 7 factors. If she decided to follow the guideline to wear a lab coat, among these 7 factors, if she decided to do one thing only, for example, if she has a lab coat on, or maybe she do better housekeeping and then to put the cover back onto the flask. And then, indeed, the accidents will not be that serious. It may save her life. But think about that, it is only just like an example. If one is telling you one thing, there are 7 doors. Okay, there are 7 doors on the corridor. And then behind these 7 doors, there is a monster. And then you will say, it's just a kid. You're just a joke. It's a joke. It's a kidding. Because I've never seen the monster. There's no monster here. It's right behind 7 doors. And then you open the first door, you don't see. You open the second door, you don't see. Okay, you will say you're cheating. Okay, there's no monster there. Not until all 7 doors are open, you don't see the monster. But once all the door open, the monster will come out and eat you. Okay, and then you cannot tell the other people the truth. And then the second people get in and they will still say, it's a cheating. It's just a joke. It won't happen. So that's the reason why I can say why we always emphasize on some very basic things. Because those basic things are one of the door to keep you away from the monster. For example, lab coat. Maybe you may look down on the designs of the lab coat, and then you guys like to have T-shirts, okay, like that, or sweater. But think about it, if this accident happened here now, and then the sulfuric acid spreads on your T-shirt, okay, what can you do? What can you do? Can you take off your coat? No way, it's not easy. It's not easy. Okay, you have to wash your face by sulfuric acid again, okay, once again. How can you take your T-shirt off? It's difficult. So that's the reason why in the designs of the lab coats, it is some tricks there, we have buttons there, okay? And then not many buttons, it's not talking about like my shirts, there are 10 buttons, only 3 or 4, okay? It's easy for you to take your coat away. Think about it, it's a layer of skin, just like an insect, okay? When they need to grow up, they take the skin off, okay? Take the skin off. Now, even some bacteria or something like that outside, or parasites outside doesn't hurt because they take it away. The lab coat is some kinds of design like that, okay? Help you to keep away from chemicals or maybe accident. You know, one time when I joined the conference, the safety educations in Hong Kong, an Australian, he is a very experienced inspector of accidents. We discussed about the designs of the lab coat. He asked me one question. He didn't understand why we don't have the just like the surgeon, okay? We have the button behind because he thinks that the protection will be better. But I give him one answer in this. We don't care about something like a bacteria, okay? We will not be infected. But once chemicals on, we have to take that off, okay, as soon as possible. So if you have the button behind, how can you take that off? Okay, please tell me to take that off. There's no way, okay, there's no way. Okay, so that's the reason why the designs, every details about the designs of the personal protection equipment has their own meaning. Okay, even maybe you don't understand, but you can discuss with other people, and then you may understand better. Okay, you may maybe ignore some kinds of the suggestions. For example, your safety officer walk by and say, why don't you put the cap back onto your flask and then keep it tight, okay, screw it up, okay, and tight, okay, screw that back up, the cap up. And then you will say, don't bother me, you look like my mom, okay, always bother me, okay, telling to do this thing and that things. You may ignore these kinds of the warning. But not until the accident occurred that you may not understand the value of these suggestions. Okay, now you understand, but maybe too late, So that's the reason why we try hard to deliver these kinds of the message to you. Don't look down on these kinds of the warning or suggestions because they are valuable. Okay. There's some things sometimes young people will have really high confidence, and then you may think that you are really strong. Okay. But unfortunately, human is not reliable. Human reliability is really low. Okay, don't trust yourself. So if you get sick, you get tired, or maybe you have a bad temper after quarreling with your friends, something like that. Okay, or you didn't have good sleep and then you become absent-minded. Under these situations, you better stop your research. Okay, go back home and take a break. Maybe you will worry about your professors, okay, because you have some pressure on your research. But think about it, if you are really tired and then you keep doing the research, the only thing you will get back is unreliable results. Okay, what's good for that? So if you have any difficulty, talk to your professor, go back home, and then take a break. Okay, this is very important. And then some attitude in it is don't be ignorant and overlooking the discipline, basic stuff, eat and play in the research area. Okay, I will show you some interesting photos. This one I just skipped that. It is the chemical accidents. This guy is really absent-minded. After making the ozonate, he's supposed to know that the reduction reaction should be followed in order to get the aldehyde. But in this experiment, in this accident, he just make the ozonate, and then he forget to do the reduction and start to distill the ozonate. And then, of course, explosion will occur because ozonate cannot be heat, otherwise it explodes. So it is an accident, but luckily, he has the safety glass on and then protect his eyes. Otherwise, it will become a very serious disaster. So I show you some kinds of the photos here. This one indeed is the scene of an accident by mixing KMnO4, sulfuric acid, and organic compounds together. And that is the consequence. Now, why they be so silly and make mix these kinds of things together? Well, the story is really straightforward. At the beginning, they want to make some kinds of the manganese oxide particles, in aqueous. However, they discovered that this kinds of catalyst is not strong enough, so they would like to change the conditions to make the anhydrous material. The student is so naive that, okay, if that is the case, maybe we can replace the solvent by organic compound. So he just walked out the laboratory, start to make KMnO4 and sulfuric acid together, and then drop in the toluene, and then that is the result. Okay, that's the result. Of course, you have experience now. You watched the YouTube before. And here is another scene of the chemical accidents. The student were cleaning up the laboratory at that moment, and then they put some kinds of the acid, as we believe, into an organic waste bottle, the organic waste bucket. And turns out the whole bucket just torn off. Okay, you can see the crack here. The crack is not just a little bit, but anyway, it just go around the whole bucket. It's just go around the whole bucket. You can see how powerful it is. The bucket is here. And then you can see the solvent, the waste solvent now spreads from the hallway, at the head of the hallway to the tail of the hallway. And then the height indeed is on top of the instrument. Okay? So you can see just like a spring bomb, and then everything spread around 5 meters away. It always happens because sometimes we become so absent-minded. And then when we have some new idea, we are so hurried that we would like to see the results, and then we go into the laboratory and simply make things together. It is really dangerous. It's really dangerous. When you have some ideas, please sit down, discuss with your professor, climb down a little bit, think about that clearly, and then make the action. It is the only way. So anytime you have some kinds of the good idea, don't be overexcited. Sit down, talk to somebody else, climb down, and then make actions. Okay. Here I show you some kinds of the so-called incompatible chemicals in here. Okay. So you can look at the table. Why I show you here? Because you see, acetic acid is a common thing. Acetone is a common thing. And copper is a common thing. Hydrocarbon is a common thing. Iodine is a common thing. You never think that they are so dangerous, but they still have the so-called incompatible partner. Okay, if you mix them together, disasters come. Okay, disaster comes. So please check everything carefully. That's what I can say to you. And then your reliability is not good. Okay, otherwise you won't do that. Think about that. Here is some kinds of the extension cord, electrical extension cord, and it's a water sink. They put everything together. Okay. I wonder whether they are going to wash them, okay? But anyway, you see how dangerous it is. And then sometimes it's so ignorance that they pile up all kinds of the garbage waste in the emergency exit, in front of the emergency exit. This photo is really, really amazing. You see it's a cup of tea. You can still see the tea bag there. And then next with the tea, indeed, do you know what it is? It's acetonitrile, a volatile organic solvent. And it's soluble in water. And then the vapor of the acetonitrile will simply dissolve in the tea, okay, in the tea. And then you put your tea next by the acetonitrile, and after half an hour, you start to drink acetonitrile. If you don't want to believe me, you can go back your laboratory and do one experiment. I did this experiment before. I prepare one NMR sample with deuterated chloroform, and then I start to transfer the ether maybe this distance away. After the transferring the ether, I take this sample, okay, for NMR checking. I see ether in my NMR solvent, okay? It's live. So think about that. If you would like to have a hamburger in your laboratory, how dangerous it will be. Because either all kinds of chemical may dissolve in your hamburger, and then it tastes good, right? It tastes good, right? Okay. You may enjoy ether, you may enjoy acetone. So don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not telling you some really bordering. I'm not going to bordering you, but don't be stubborn. Don't be stubborn. This guy uses slipper in the laboratory. But I can say it is the waste, the box for the waste glass, broken glass. And then you can still see the broken glass shattered around. And then he was so brave at that time, I can say. Okay. So, and also, when you go back to your laboratory, please help to check whether all the equipments are fixed to the wall or maybe to the floor. In Taiwan, we have serious earthquake. We have serious earthquake. So don't pile up anything in the hallway. During the earthquake, maybe we have only 10 seconds, no more than seconds for us to run away from the laboratory. Now I show you the picture here. Indeed, it's not from Taiwan, but from Japan. It is a picture from Tohoku University. After the earthquake, you see all the equipment get together. Okay, if you are trapped in the laboratory, you definitely be a dead meat. Okay, no way out. Okay, no way out. But really interestingly, in this earthquake accidents, none of them were killed in Japan in Tohoku University. Even seven buildings has to be rebuilt. 7 buildings has to be rebuilt at that time. But nobody gets hurt in this earthquake. The thing about that, if you are in the laboratory, even I give you a warning, you have 10 seconds. Where can you go? Maybe within 10 seconds, you will still be in the hallway. So keep clear the hallway is the most important things to do. Okay. So when you need to handle chemicals, some things I call it as a must. You have to follow. Okay. Before you use any chemicals, read the safety data sheet carefully. The safety data sheet is an interesting thing to know. Before then, we call it as a material safety data sheet. But nowadays, we take away the material, but we call it as a safety data sheet. Because if you buy a bottle of acetone from Aldrich, the acetone from Aldrich may be different from the acetone from Merck, okay? Because they belong to two different products. So some kinds of the contaminant, for example, such and such, will be very important to the stability of the chemicals. So every time when you order the chemicals, even you use acetone a lot, every time when you order some chemicals, you better to read the SDS more carefully. In one time, an accident occurred in a laboratory. When the guy heat up the materials to 160 degrees, something like that, and that accident occurred, and he started to complain about the chemical company. But his safety officer said, "Have you ever read the SDS?" He said, "No, I didn't read the SDS because I use these kinds of chemicals quite a lot." And then the safety officer pulled out the SDS data and discovered one thing indeed is, before the company delivered these chemicals, there's one important sentence in the SDS saying that the compound decomposed at 160 degrees. Okay, even usually you buy the chemicals from different company, the decomposition temperature may be 190 degrees, but this one is 160 degrees. So you better to read SDS carefully before you get in touch with chemicals. And also, you have to receive safety training. Okay, I don't need to bother you anymore. And follow the operating SOP and so and so, so and so, so and so. The last thing indeed is don't work alone. And then students start to complain about me. Okay, professor, you tell me not to work alone, then that means you are going to tell me I have to give up my thesis, my degree. Why? Because I am the only student in the laboratory. What can I do? Okay, what can I do? Now, at least I can say you're supposed to make friends with each other, okay? You work alone in your laboratory, but anyway, you still have some friends adjacent, okay? Now, you better to make a teamwork with some other people and then try to work hard together, okay? Not work alone. And of course, you have to understand some kinds of the so-called protective equipment such and such. And last thing indeed is please check if the chemicals you are using or you are ordering are controlled chemicals in Taiwan. Otherwise, you may receive a ticket if you don't register getting the license for handling such chemicals. You will be in trouble. Okay, make sure that they are not underneath the so-called controlled list. When you walk into the laboratory, maybe you can judge whether you are working in the safe environment. I would like to invite you to be an inspector in if I have a chance. Because once you just need to be an inspector for one time, you will understand all kinds of the importance of safety. When we walk into the laboratory for inspection, usually the tidiness is the job number one. Well, because if you guys never keep your laboratory in the so-called good shape, I don't think that you will taking care of all the other stuff, okay? So the tidiness is the job number one. Walk in the laboratory, you know whether it's safe or not, okay? That's easy, so easy. And then the risk assessment is another thing, not including here, because it's too big, the risk assessment. But something you have to understand, when you walk into the laboratory, even it's clean, and then another thing is your actions, your behavior. When you walk into the laboratory here like that, maybe lucky you have two doors, and some of the laboratory may have only one door. If it is the case, make sure that don't handle any, okay, keep clear the eggs, besides keep clear the eggs. Don't handle any self-igniting chemicals or store any flammable chemicals next by the door. Well, because it's the only eggs for you to run away, you have to keep it as the most safe place here. So don't handle these kinds of the stuff here. For example, if you need to use T-butyllithium, please go back to here, a hood far away from the eggs. Don't work here, don't work here. And also you need to have these kinds of emergency equipment accessible anytime. What's the meaning of accessible? For example, you have the fire blankets. But if I ask you where is your fire blankets, I say somewhere else. I don't know. I have no idea. Just like the fire extinguisher. Okay, I know there's a fire extinguisher here, but I don't know. I have no idea where it is. It's not accessible. Okay, so I mean is anytime when you need it, you can reach it. It's so-called accessible. And then keep away, keep clear everything like the emergency shower, ice washer, something like that. Okay. Sometimes people like to pile up dirt, box, waste, something like that around the emergency shower. If in case you need that, you will know the price. You will know the price. Okay. See if I have any photos. And also don't work alone. The safety equipment. Now when we talk about the safety equipment, goggle indeed is the most important thing for you. Some student may come to my office, and even professor, once in a while, some professor walk in my laboratory and ask, "Man, kid, why you say that my student do not have any safety glass? Because they are all short size, they have the glass like that. Is it a safety glass?" I can say it's not a safety glass. It's not a safety goggle. Well, because for safety goggles, it requires the side shields and also the top shield and the bottom shield. to cover your eyes. The shields are very important because do you like basketball? Basketball, okay. You put your ball into the basket. The trajectory is something like that. Okay, it's not a canoe, okay, not a canoe. It's not soccer, okay, it's basketball. So all kinds of the spills may get into your eyes, something like that, okay, three-pointer, get into the basket. So you need to have the shield to cover your eyes. And then there are two types of the so-called glasses and goggles. What's the difference between the glasses and goggles? Indeed, the goggles may have the soft shields here. These kinds of the soft shields can get in touch with your face tightly. Think about it. If the splash is kinds of the liquid, the liquid chemicals splash on your face, and then they may drip down into your eyes. Okay, if you have the safety glass like that. So if you need to handle chemicals, these kinds of the safety glasses may not help at all. Okay, it's useless. It's useless. So for example, if you are organic chemist, okay, you are not a machinery guy. Okay, you are doing reactions. You are supposed to use these kinds of the safety goggle. And then if you are going to handle the so-called highly corrosive material like sulfuric acid, you need to have a full face shield, cover your face. But remember one thing, I have to remind you one thing in this. Even you have the face shields, you still need to have the goggles to protect your eyes. Then that means you need to put goggles on and then put the face shields in front, okay, to cover your face, okay, two step. Don't be a hero here. Don't be a hero. Sometimes liquid nitrogen story, I will let you know the liquid nitrogen story. Well, because liquid nitrogen can be really, really nasty for you. Now you see us here, many things here, but just one thing I would like to show you indeed is the eyes with metal sharps on, okay, it's really horrible. And then the chemical spreads hazes on the eyes, damage the eyes completely. Now after anything's getting into your eyes, you may have some kinds of the short times of period to deal with. Anything's get into your eyes, you're supposed to wash them out completely for at least 30 minutes. So flush your eyes with the water. So at that time, the eye washer and the emergency shower will be very important for you. Please, it's your responsibility to keep it clean. Okay, from time to time, check whether the eye washer work appropriately. And then don't send the student to the hospital immediately without washing the eyes, because any chemicals retaining inside the eyes may keep damaging their eyes. So before then, you have to flush them all out before you send them to the hospital by ambulance. Okay, it's really important. When you need to choose a shoes, you are not going to the department store and buy a shoes. No deal. You have to have a full cover one. That can help you to cover your feet completely. The better to use the leather one, but don't use some other like sport shoes, because the solvent or the chemicals may penetrate these kinds of shoes very quickly. Of course, don't use these kinds of the high-heeled or the slipper. Somebody like to take all the shoes away. It's even worse. Don't do that. It's all inappropriate. The clothings, you need the clothes to cover your body. So long pants is good or skirt is good. Okay. If you have any, don't use the sweatshirt. Okay. Don't use sweatshirts here. And if you have any bulky clothes and something like that, please take them off completely. For example, if you have long hair, the hair is really dangerous for you. Okay. Except you have already prepared a scissors always in your pocket, in case you can cut them off. Otherwise, it can be really dangerous for you. Okay, dangerous for you. So if you have a long hair, tie them up and then cover it. Okay, and keep it away from any machine rotating drive. Okay, it's dangerous for you. And also flame, okay? In case of just like a Bunsen burner, keep your hair away from the flame. Now, why I always saying that also mask, okay? First, before I give you the story. The safety mask is very important for some situation. For example, you need to use silica gel. For example, silica gel. You need to use silica gel. When you transfer the silica gel, you may face a lot of dust. If those silica gel getting into your lung, they will never go out, okay? They will not be dissolved. They will stay in your lung forever. So dust will be really a horrible thing to deal with. So anytime when you are facing the dusty environment, and also dirt and also fumes, you may need, or vapors, you may need masks. You can choose the appropriate mask for different situations. For example, when you are dealing with vapor, gases, something like that, you need to have a mask with the filter. If you are going to deal with some kinds of the dust, maybe you can use these kinds of the mask, it will be good enough. But no matter which kinds of the mask you use, you have to check the seal, because the tightness of the seals will be the critical factors determining whether the mask is function appropriately or not. Think about it, if you have any kinds of the leak adjacent, all dust or vapors may get into your lung directly through the leaks. And then that means the mask become useless. So when you need to use a mask, check it yourself or also ask your lab mate to check it for you. Make sure that the seal is go attached to your face tightly. The gloves. Here's a story that may change your mind. There is a story about Professor Wichterhahn. She was a successful and famous in organic animal spectroscopies. Already successful at that time. And then, but anyway, she worked so hard that she still worked in the laboratory. Okay, work in the laboratory. One day she need to handle dimethyl mercury in a glove box. I think she has a glove. Okay, and then some accident happens. And then the methyl mercury get onto the gloves. And then she take the latex gloves to the decontamination area and then to wash and then take the gloves off. It is so-called the standard operating procedure at that time. So even the SOP may go wrong. Unfortunately, the dimethyl mercury still get into her body. And then she discovered it later, but it's too late because once the mercury get into her body, mercury will not go out easily. She died after 11 months, I think, roughly 11 months she died. Okay, because the mercury kept damaging her kidney, and then she died. Anyway, finally. His colleagues are curious to know why dimethyl mercury is so harmful to her. And then they do one experiment. They discovered that the dimethyl mercury can penetrate the gloves within 15 seconds. 15 seconds. So once you have the mercury drop onto your, dimethyl mercury drop onto your gloves, you start to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 15 times later you die. Okay. So remember that I know somebody else, your professor or maybe you, may want to save money. So you keep repeating using the same gloves for the whole week. Don't do that. Once they are contaminated, take it out, remove them and use a new one. That's the only way. Okay? They are only a membrane. Try to detain the chemicals penetrating through the membrane. But it won't last too long. Maybe some of them are 15 seconds, some of them may be no more than 15 minutes. So once they are contaminated, the only way you can do indeed is to take away. Okay, take away. Except you can check the specification. If you have a really strong, really thick gloves, maybe you still have chance to clean that up from time to time. Okay. There are many different kinds of the gloves, but if you really want to use the latex one, okay, maybe the nitrile one, I always encourage students to have 2 layers of the gloves. One is the PE layer and the other indeed is the latex cover. it will be more safe because you have two gloves together, help you to prevent the chemicals getting to your skin. When you need to use a film hood, remember that the film hood relies on the flow to carry away the contaminants. So if you put all kinds of bottles, use it as the storage cabinets, then the bottle will block up the flow, and then the turbulence will lead the contaminant out from the hood to you. So inside the hood, only the setup for the reactions is allowed in the hood, but please don't use it as a storage place to keep your chemicals inside. Your chemicals are supposed to be stored in the cabinets. The physical conditions and environment is also very important. Now, sometimes you may think that chemicals are horrible, but I can tell you one reality. Chemical incidents or chemical accidents is not that frequent. The frequency is much lower than the physical accident. But however, once chemical accident occurs, the severity will be really high. You may die. However, the physical environment and health is really important for you to know. The most frequently, the accident source indeed is electrical shocks or maybe electrical fire. In the statistic about fire accidents, electrical fire may cause about 80% of the fire accidents. Some other indeed is maybe chemicals, but anyway, electricity is the most dangerous things to deal with. Noise pollution is also another killer for a lot of people. Okay, low temperature, something like that. Okay, read that. I will let you know some story. Okay, see some story here. The major electrical hazards is coming from the uncertified installations, and also some kinds of electrical cords and with poor conditions. I didn't put poor. Okay, the electrical cord with poor conditions is the second causes for fire accidents, and overuse of the extension cord is very common, and also the poor lab performance. Why I say that? Because sometimes for the sake of convenience, you may think that you can do it yourself. Okay, this is called the DIY. You do the DIY in your laboratory, so you set up the electrical system by your own without following the appropriate guideline. Something like that, supposedly there are box that cover the switch. Because look at that, all kinds of the pins there are electricity. Now you will get the electrical shock through the contact with these kinds of the pins. Okay, it's really dangerous. And sometimes you can see the poor condition of the extension cord, but you still keep using these kinds of extension cord. You may wonder what's the difference between the extension cord and the plugs here. I can say that the plugs here has a really high standard of specification. Even the temperature go up, it won't melt. But if you use these kinds of extension cord, they cannot resist the high temperature. They melt simply. And then the pins there may contact with each other and then burn. So don't rely on these kinds of extension cord. Indeed, the cost of extension cord is really expensive. I don't understand why people like to use extension cord. Okay, but it always causes the fire accident. And something like that happens in the laboratory. For example, is the brick panel here. Supposedly there's a safety shield like that cover all the switch. But maybe for the sake of convenience, after repairing, the technicians will not put back the safety shield. And one time in one school, the student get in touch with this panel and then die because of the electrical shocks. It happens in Taiwan. So once you open the brick panel and discover that, please contact your university. They will send the people to find the safety shield back and put it on. Okay. So as long as you see these kinds of the poor condition of the cord, please replace them immediately. Some ignorance issue here, and then you see this is my finger. and it is a cord across the hallway. Student keep stepping on the cord, and turns out it was broken. And then two wires get contact with each other, and then sparkles keep coming out from here. It's really funny because the student don't understand what's happened, and then he just noticed that the sparkles keep coming out from the cord, and then he called the department office. And then at that time I was in the office, and then I go up to the laboratory and check them for them, and then I see this kinds of the broken cord. Okay, so how horrible it will be, and then I can say how lucky he is. Okay, he was at that time, and don't overuse the extension cord. Anytime when you use the moving machinery, beware. Okay, two things you have to pay attention to. One indeed is the safety shield. Anytime any kinds of the machine like that need to have a safety shield. And the other indeed is emergency brake. Then that means once you have accidents, you just need to press the emergency brake, and then the machine will stop. If you don't have the emergency brake, it will be really dangerous. Here's the story, another story I show you about Miss Dufour. She was 22 years old. So you can see the three ladies, most of them are 22 to 23 years old, so young. But she died in the laboratory, in the machine shop. Why? You can see she has a long hair. She has a really long hair. And then she is an astronomist and also a physicist. You may think that he's supposed to work in a really safe environment, doesn't like a chemist. However, one day she need to make a really small device. So she went to the machine shop in the chemistry building, and then here's the machine shop's instrument. Anyway, the machine dragged her hair and killed her at midnight. Unfortunately, at that time she worked alone. She worked alone, and nobody can help rescue her at that moment. And then she died. So don't work alone. Okay, don't work alone. If you have a long hair, tie that up. It's a tragedy. Now, if you type her name to Google, you can still see this news and the memorial, everything's still on the machine shops. So for example, I know that in Taiwan, really common, we have some kinds of the rotary pump like that without the safety shield. Talk to your professor, put the safety shield back on. If you want to buy a rotary pump like that, when you buy this pump, talk to the vendor. Indeed, they can put the shield on. Maybe it just costs $500 or something like that. It's really cheap, okay? But anyway, I don't understand why they don't put it back on. When you need to use liquid nitrogen, the liquid nitrogen is a common thing for science students. But anyway, liquid nitrogen can be really nasty because it burns your skin and your muscle. And then the frostbite may be so bad that you have to chop your finger off. It's possible. If the spills get into your eyes, it damages your eyes tissues immediately, irreversibly. That means you lost your eyes. Okay, the temperature is so low that if you get in touch with this low temperature stuff directly with your skin, you may stick onto the low temperature substance. You cannot pull that out, okay? You can pull that out, of course, with your skin. Okay? You lost your skin. The prolonged breathing the cold air may damage your lung permanently. So liquid nitrogen is very, very nasty, and you may be suffocated by liquid nitrogen also, because nitrogen can replace oxygen, and then you may die, okay? You may be suffocated. So when you need to transfer liquid nitrogen, you have to have the full PPE with the face shield, lab coat, the gloves against the low temperature, and long pants, and also the shoes to cover your legs. Okay, it is the appropriate setting. Once you have the dewar filled with nitrogen, and if you need to put it into the elevator, don't escort the liquid nitrogen tank into the elevator. What's that mean? You can put your dewar into the elevator, but you need to have put a warning sign over there. Don't allow any people stay with the cylinder, the fuel in the elevator. Think about that. If accident occur and then you are trapped in the elevator, the liquid nitrogen may keep evaporated out, okay, from the cylinder, and you cannot stop that. There's no way for you to stop that. And then, for example, if you are trapped in the elevator for 3 hours, you may die. You may die because of the lack of oxygen, enough oxygen. So when you need to escort these kinds of things, you have to have a team of 2. One people put the tank into the elevator, put the warning sign on, and press the button to 7-4. And then your lab mate, your teammate, will be at the 7-4 to keep, okay, to taking care of the cylinder at 7-4. Okay, so you need to have a team of 2 to handle these things. The noise cases, maybe you may look down on that, but I have 2 experiences here. The one day when I walked into the clean room, the clean room, I talked to the student. Indeed, at that time he was a postdoc already, and then I say, how come you guys can work in this environment? Because I know that the cryo is really noisy. I say, why? How come you guys can work in such a laboratory? Okay, because they didn't isolate the sound source. And then he started to cry. Because he said, Professor, how do you know that? Because I said, I know that. I know how noisy the pumping system will be. And then he started to cry because he said that my ear has problem now. Okay, I go seeing doctors every week. Well, because I cannot hear clearly. Another story indeed is about our technicians in National Taiwan University. Because he has to work in the laboratory, noisy environment for quite a long time. That we give them the health check every year. And 1 year we discovered that his hearing capability, the ability is going down. And then we give him a warning, and also we give the warning to the department saying that you cannot let him work in such a noisy environment anymore. Otherwise, I will close your laboratory. And then they start to modify and improve the environment. But if you really need to work in a noisy environment, please spend some money to buy the so-called ear plug. This kind of ear plug will help you to reduce the noise level, but you can still communicate, okay? It's not a simple ear plug, but the headphone, something like that. It will help you to reduce the noise level directly, but you can still communicate with other people. But it may cost about several $1,000s a pair, so why don't you equip this kinds of stuff? In the laser environment, okay, laser can be really harmful, in particular to your eyes. So once you get into the laboratory, you have supposed to equip it with the glass and goggles, okay, safety goggles. Not simple goggles, but the goggles that can reduce the intensity of the laser quite a lot. It's so-called the laser safety goggles. Now we have one experience like that. A student setting up the laser and turn it on. Unfortunately, the clamp is not tightened up carefully. So the laser dropped and then hit his eyes and make a hole there. Okay, so it's a black hole in his eyes. So it's really bad situation. Now here's an example for the pressurized CO2 exercise. The student need to prepare some kinds of the sample to study. Indeed, it belongs to the architecture departments. They need to study whether the CO2 absorption will affect the strength of the concrete. The experiment is so simple. They put the sample there, and then they pressurize this kinds of the cylinder. After several hours, they may take the sample out and see what's the depth of the penetration of the CO2 into the concrete sample. Unfortunately, for some reasons, the explosion occur here, and then all shatter the glass window. Now I can show you the one YouTube here. The U-tip, of course, is only from the news, about this incident. Oh, sorry, my eyes is bad. Yeah, his. I hope you can understand Chinese. You see how messy the sorry. Again, I have a trouble. Well, later on, no matter. Sorry. Computer is some kinds of interesting. Let me finish the PowerPoint first, and then at the last moment I will show you the YouTube. I guarantee. Hmm? Oh yeah, here. I just come back here. Anytime when you need to pressurize the system, you have to aware that the so-called the ceiling pressure. Well, what we believe in it is somehow the gauge malfunctioned, and then the pressures keep going up here, keep going up here. Okay, keep going up here. And then anytime when we need to use a gas cylinder, in this gas cylinder can be really, really harmful. So anytime when you use it, you have to first of all to use the wall brackets to tie that up, okay, tie the cylinder up. Don't do this like that, it's loosened. Well, because the cylinder may fall. The cylinder must be secured by the chains and steadily at the place. Check the gauge regularly, because sometimes the gauge may be malfunctions. And then the gauge is important because the pressure inside the cylinder is really high. We have to rely on the gauge to step down the pressure. If the gauge goes wrong, and then the pressure here will go across the gauge and then get into your reacting system. And then it explodes simply. So the gauge is very important. If anything goes wrong, don't try to fix the gauge, okay? Because you are not supposed to fix the gauge. If anything wrong, just replace it by a good one, okay? Replace by a good one. The cylinder has to be the valve has with the valve accessible at all times. So then that means you can control that. But remember that don't put the handle there. Well, because the handle can be changed at any time. So that means you may change the pressure at any time. It may cause some accidents. So after setting up the instruments, you keep the handle around, okay? You hook it on here, but not directly on the top of the cylinder. But when you need to use a cylinder, pay attention to the room temperature. Room temperature is not necessary to be 25 degrees. In Taiwan, in winter, maybe sometimes the temperature can go up to 35 degrees. At least the temperature should not exceed 40 degrees. Otherwise, you have to shut down everything, okay? It will be really dangerous if you operate the cylinder at a high room temperature. When you have all kinds of the hazardous gaseous materials, you are required to have these kinds of the so-called the safety cabinets, and then you have to set the cylinder there. Inside the cabinets, there will be a detector, okay, the sensor for the warning, leakage warning. Then you have to inspect all the facilities from time to time. So anytime if you need to use highly dangerous gases like hydrogen, or maybe acetylene, something like that, you need these kinds of, or maybe fluorine, you need these kinds of safety cabinets. When you start to use the cylinder, put a label there saying that it's in action. You are using these kinds of the cylinder here, according to our safety regulations. Okay. And also, sometimes if you don't have the wall brackets, you may use a stand there. But when you use a stand like this, you have the responsibility to check the screw there, okay? Because they have to be tightened up, screwed up tightly, screwed tightly. Now, once in a while, we walk into the laboratory. We know that the student have a stand there and they put the cylinder there. But when you check that they have never fixed the screw, okay, then that means the stand is useless. Sometimes they keep the cylinder like that here, stand upright here without a stand. It's a very dangerous thing to do. And then they mix all kinds of the combustible gas together. It's also very dangerous. And they don't even have the belt there. They use a paper box to hold the cylinder, which is too naive, I can say, too naive. When you need to transport the cylinder, maybe you need to have a cart like that. But for example, these guys are really happy to help you to move the cylinder, but two things are wrong. It needs the belts to fix it on the cart, and then you need to have a safety cover to cap the cylinder. This is also wrong, because once you put it onto the cart, you need to attend the cart. Never leave it alone, okay? Because they are movable. They are movable. Before you leave the laboratory, you have to have a checklist there, okay? For example, when you need to do the overnight experiment, okay, you need to settle everything, and then you have to leave a note there telling your lab mate about the details of the reactions, the type of reactions, something like that. When you are the last guy who walk out the laboratory, check everything, whether the tap water, electrical applicant, unused electrical applicants, hot plates, natural gas, hood straps are shut off. And then take off your lab coat and also the gloves and wash your hand. Don't bring any contaminants back to your dormitory. Lock the door, okay? Lock the door. And I think we already have about more than 2.5 hours of the training here. I will leave about 10 minutes to 20 minutes for you to ask questions. So finally, I would like to say one word to you. Protect yourself and you can go further. If you make accidents this moment, you may stop here, okay, forever. Okay, thank you for your attention. Thank you. So any questions? Any questions? I hope my presentation will not stop, okay, you to work in the laboratory in the future, because you discover is so dangerous, okay? Better not to be a graduate student here, okay? But anyway, I think communication is very important to make you safe. And of course, I know that 2.5 hours may not be enough for me to deliver everything to you. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to discuss in future through email, or you may call my office. Put my name, Google, National Taiwan University, make it down. You will find my information. Okay? Okay? Any questions? No. Yeah. No, you're scared by me. Okay. How about you?
No question.
Yeah, no question. Are you sure? I have many questions.
No.
Yeah, how about you? So no questions, and then I have 10 questions there. Is the exam paper. Yes. The exam paper is easy. I confess, I didn't set any traps there. So when you read it, you think that it is appropriate, it should be correct, and then it's correct. Okay, it's correct. I give you hints like that. And there's a typo, but I make a correction. I think they make a correction. I hope you enjoy the questions. Okay, forever. Bye-bye.